can actually get physiological symptoms from being in your workplace when it doesn't align with your purpose. It's a real thing. And you might think to yourself, oh my gosh, it's stress, or, it's allergies or something like that. And only to find that it really is that you are creatively suppressed on a level that it's keeping you from being yourself completely. And that's where I was, where I said, you know what, I've got to build an exit strategy. And I think that for a lot of us who are in the mindset of this is something I want to do, but the fear is so overwhelming that we can't leave, it's because we're imagining jumping into a black void rather than painting the picture of the place we want to go. And that's what I did that was different. So I never think of it as quitting my job. I think of it as hiring myself.
Hey, everybody. It's Better Together with Maria Menounos. Of course, I'm not Maria Menounos. I'm Kevin Undergar, her husband, a.k.a. Mr. Maria Menounos. And if you see a little extra bob in my head, it's because I had a great pre-meeting with our guest today. God, it's like we're already finishing each other's sentences. And it's one of those things. I think we've known each other for a long time without having known each other. She's already making me laugh. And we're already venting about things we won't go over on the air. But anyway, listen, let's start with the quote of the day. The very thing that makes you weird is what makes you perfect for your business. That's from Nicole Walters. She's got me all fired up. Our guest today, Nicole Walters, is a former top-selling corporate exec who quit her job live on Periscope in front of 10,000 people. Since then, she has become a leading business strategist and the founder and CEO of the Inherit Learning Company, which helps entrepreneurs launch their ventures. She's also the star of the docuseries She's the Boss on the USA Network. But just when you think it's all about business with Nicole, you'll find out it's anything but. Nicole's the proud mother of 3 adopted daughters, one of whom she helped survive cancer, and someone who credits faith in God for her success. A bright and timely light who navigates hard work and success with care and compassion. The Heal Squad, Better Together, and even me are really excited to welcome Nicole Walters. Hey, Nicole.
Hey, Kevin. I'm so glad to be here.
Thank you for coming. Nicole, there's so much in you because there's such a map and a blueprint for other people to follow in terms of success. You are you immigrant or first generation?
Oh, you know it. I'm first generation. I mean, honestly, Kevin, This is going to be the best chat that anyone's ever listened to because it's going to be like 2 friends literally hanging out, keeping it all real.
I love her. So you're first gen. You've got the immigrant parents.
Yep.
Tell me some of the things that, because listen, she goes on to be very, very successful, but she has her bumps in the road like many of us. She stands her ground. She takes that moment, takes charge of her life and all that. But I'm always fascinated, like the ingredients that your parents put into you so we can learn as parents, and take that away. So tell me some of the things about growing up that made you Nicole.
Well, I mean, it's a combination, right? Because I mean, you know exactly what it is when you're first generation or you grow up with those parents who just want a different path for you. They are putting all the things into you, the blue collar, effort, saying, look, you got to know how to do the work. You need to be humble. You need to be willing to sweep the floors of the very stadium that you may be speaking on this stage in. So, I mean, that was the ethic, the work ethic and the mindset that my parents gave me that, no job is too big and you can't lead if you're not willing to follow. But knowing all of that, they also taught me on the same hand that I was, destined for great things and that they were struggling and working hard in hopes that my future would look different and brighter. And, but that came with the pressure too, right?
Yes.
Be a doctor or a lawyer.
Yes, that's it. Choices. Yes. Doctor, lawyer, or business person. That's what I had.
Engineer. I could also be engineer. This one is also good.
God bless them, but they wanted what was best for you. And I understand. Stability, yes. But oh my God, you need a job with benefits.
But who's going to be your 401k?
Yeah, no. But you know what? Listen, honor and bless them because, their intentions were amazing. And by the way, that's not a bad path for other people, but.
Absolutely. Just I should say for our personalities, you don't want to sit next to me in a cubicle. I'm going to talk your ear off. I'm going to complain about how this isn't done right. You don't want me at your office.
Right. So any brothers and sisters, any siblings?
Yes, I'm the eldest child, of course. So I have one sister, younger, 7 years younger.
Who had an easier path, of course.
Much easier.
Yes.
I mean, obviously I'm like the other mom, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I had just this morning, she texted me like, I really have a craving for that popcorn I had while I was at your house. She's 30, by the way. I sent her the link, and then 10 minutes later, I was like, I have a shipment headed your way.
Yeah, of course. Well, 30 is the new 20, as you know. So
that's right. It is. Well, I hope so.
And 40 is the new 30, and 50 is. No, it really is that way. I'm seeing it more and more. So, but Nicole, is it true you went to boarding school?
I did. I went to a very special boarding school. I grew up really poor. My dad was a cab driver. My mom was a secretary at a boating insurance company. So they just didn't have it. But I tested high. I had a strong aptitude for intellect, whether or not that means you can read a book pretty well. I seem to get things pretty quickly. So they sent me to this top tier school that was actually on a full scholarship. And it was in the middle of Hershey, Pennsylvania. And it was founded by a huge entrepreneur, Milton Hershey.
So, okay, so one second. Just, I'm sorry. This is Kev, not Maria's. This isn't. I know it's Maria's show, guys, but I just had a Kev ADD moment. Please tell me you've been to Hershey Park.
Yeah. Oh, have I?
Right.
I can tell you by smelling the air
chocolate
what they're
for
making
days.
at the factory.
I want to go so bad. Please end the pandemic so we can drive there. It's
right? A thing. We're doing it together.
Yes,
we're doing it together.
I want to. Okay, I'm so sorry. So let's go back to boarding school because I met with I was getting something altered in our little town here in Connecticut, and I love hearing people's stories. I love people who figure shit out, by the way.
Yes.
And immigrants figure shit out.
Yes, they do. They have
to.
Right?
They just figure shit out. So Maria's parents always figured it out. And I was fascinated by this woman. I don't know how we got talking, but she homeschooled her 3 children. And I actually want to bring her on the show. And I said, can I ask you something? The kids end up going on to be very successful. One had a chronic illness, like her middle daughter too, like yours.
Yes.
She found a way to combat that.
Amazing.
And they ended up going to high school, 2 of them. And they just were bored because they knew more than the other kids.
Of course.
And in the areas they wanted to pursue, one was computers, and I forget what the other one was, culinary arts. But when I said to Kelsey about homeschooling, she gave me the look, and I said, what's interesting, Kelsey? Homeschooling and boarding schools have these stigmas where it's like the boarding schools where the rich sent their kids because they didn't love them.
Yes.
And the homeschool was for the weirdos. Yes. And I'm like, it was interesting to hear like a lady who figured it out. And she's like, no. And so I love to hear that boarding school was enriching for you.
It's not weird at all. It's actually something that it really is based on the type of kid you're raising. And it's part of why I'm successful. I was the kid in college that knew how to do their laundry. I was the adult that already understood finances.
Right.
I mean, it was really just, if you have a kid that's inclined towards independence, then you should see that in them and approach it, whether or not it's boarding school or helping them start their first business. It's important that you treat each kid individually, and boarding school helps with that.
Right. It's like coaching too. Even I always say whether it's I'm a Hollywood career coach. I don't get paid to do it, but I get paid in good karma. That's why I say 10% good karma is my fee. But I go into it like everyone's different. So it's like, so what will motivate this person? What will and you're right. We have to look at everybody independently and rather than that cookie cutter kind of way.
That's right. And I mean, that's what makes for a great coach. I know when I'm working with my clients, so many of them come to me, and you probably experience this as well, where they'll sit down with you and say, well, this is what I want. And this is the way it should work. And this is how it should go. Yeah. And you're like, look, like I'm bringing my experience to the table to let you know that we've got to tailor it to you. And we've also got to be responsive to the opportunities that show up. Yes. And that's why you work with a coach, because they know what's coming and they know how to pivot. Yes. So I hear you.
Yeah. And again, I don't know why this keeps coming up, recurring, and all the successful people I interview on this I'm blessed interview thing with Maria being out right now, but it's that awareness. And if you don't have the awareness, a coach, someone like you does, to say, this is what's going on.
Yes.
But then you have to buy into that too.
Absolutely. I mean, also taking that risk and having that faith, isn't that what entrepreneurship and being in Hollywood is all about?
Yes.
Because we're all raised to be told that what we need is that 9 to 5. And a 9 to 5 is great. I mean, make no mistake, I have many a day where I wish I had paid time off and a boss I could clock in for so I could be done at 5.
Yeah. Right? And the benefits and yes.
And
absolutely.
the benefits and all that stuff. Sure. But I mean, the truth is in entrepreneurship and in Hollywood, you've got to say to yourself, look, I'm going to take that risk. When you sign up for something like a reality show, like She's the Boss, I mean, the truth is anything could happen. I mean, as much as I know my family and I know the message I want to put out in the world, when you trust those guys on the other side of the camera to capture and edit and put it together the right way, I mean, it's a risk. And I'm grateful because at least with this show, it definitely paid off.
But the bigger risk, and by the way, like, listen, I think when people really get to know you, and the interviews I've seen have been too limited. I'm so glad we have time, and I know we're going to have you back on a variety, because for me it's like there's motherhood you can speak to, there's entrepreneur you can speak to, there's being a person of color that you can speak to, being an immigrant, like parents who don't get you. There's so many things with you. I think when people just get to know you, they'll fall in love with you. Then the show's going to follow. Oh, you see what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Let them get to know you. And everything else will follow. Like, because again, like we could talk about She's the Boss. It's on USA Network, guys. Check it out. Because but when you get to know Nicole, you're gonna see why you want to keep following her, listening to her podcast, watching her show, and even being part of her business. And then the other, but to me, it's backing up. To me, the courage isn't doing a reality show. I know for a lot of women, I know. They're afraid of that kind of stuff, so I get it. But
sure,
but
it's because people are mean.
They're mean.
People are mean
and toxic, and you're right.
And especially
all of it
with your kids out there. That's the scary part.
It's scary, but at the same time, it's a free billboard for you.
It is.
That no one else could get.
It's strategic, obviously. Yes. I think anyone who understands business knows there's a reason behind it. But I think that what's great is it's timely. And you probably picked this up right away. I mean, look at the world we're living in right now.
Yes.
There's so much doom and gloom and negativity. And what's great about our show and our opportunity is you get to see a, Black woman of color playing a lead role, in an interfaith, interracial, blended family, with adopted kids that were adopted older. I mean, it's a beautiful thing, and it's what we need right now.
It is what we need. To me, the courage was quitting the job on Periscope. Because I think that's more relatable to.
Sure.
I think a lot of people will get into a fantasy mindset of like, someday I'll be an influencer or a reality star. Like someday my knight in shining armor will come, or I'll win the lottery. Yep. We all have those like daydreams, and it's fun.
Absolutely.
But there is a reality of like, you know what? I am not living my purpose at this job. I'm afraid to quit because I'm going to lose my benefits, or I'm going to lose that to me is the most, that's the thing that our fans from the Heal Squad need to hear, is that part of your journey, Nicole. So take me to like, you're working your job. And what goes through your head to go, what made you make the turn? And then I want to hear how it all went down. But so tell me, you're working at this job and you're successful.
Yeah. So, I mean, I did all the things my parents told me to do, right?
Okay,
so I have this corporate job. I'm in my cube. I'm clocking in, and I'm really successful. I'm the youngest person in my division. It's because I'm a hard worker, right? But the problem is I'm unfulfilled. I mean, I can tell that I'm not using all my gifts and that I'm going to have to just sit here all day and serve a purpose that not only isn't my own, but doesn't really align with where I'm positioned in the world to make an impact. And as you get older, it just eats at you, where you start saying to yourself, is this where I should be spending my time? Is this where I'm using my gifts my best? And I just couldn't stop listening to that call. It just was getting louder and louder.
Nicole, have you seen friends who it's eaten at them so much that they get sick?
Physically, absolutely. Yes. You can actually get physiological symptoms from being in your workplace when it doesn't align with your purpose. It's a real thing. And you might think to yourself, oh my gosh, it's stress, or, it's allergies or something like that. And only to find that it really is that you are creatively suppressed on a level that it's keeping you from being yourself completely. And that's where I was, where I said, you know what, I've got to build an exit strategy. And I think that for a lot of us who are in the mindset of this is something I want to do, but the fear is so overwhelming that we can't leap, it's because we're imagining jumping into a black void rather than painting the picture of the place we want to go. And that's what I did that was different. So I never think of it as quitting my job. I think of it as hiring myself.
Ooh. Love that. I love that. So you we understand we're not living our purpose. That's I love this idea of now exit strategy. So it wasn't a matter of, I'm not living my purpose, and you get out of your cubicle and march down to the corner office and say, I'm out, right? Well, people do that because they react, they don't respond, they snap, and then they go, oh, what did I do? And now I'm a double loser because I was in a job that I either wasn't being treated well, wasn't appreciated, or wasn't living my fulfillment. That was one loss. Now it's a second loss because I don't have a good recommendation or good reference or whatever. So now tell me you've moved mentally into, now I'm going to create an exit strategy. Tell me about that.
So let's talk about what you just said, the self-fulfilling prophecy of not being successful. So part of us we're so scared to quit that we get to the point where we explode, finally quit that job, and then we wonder why it's not working, why it isn't coming together. It's because you weren't prepared, not because you couldn't do it, but because you didn't prepare. And I just didn't want that to be the case. Right. So, and also I had these, kids that I was committed to, that I needed to make sure I was, providing for. So I started building actually a little bit on the side. I call it homing from work, right? And stealing my time back. So I was doing that, and I was generating revenue on the side like crazy, just helping people in a one-off way, saying, I can help you figure out your legal. I can help you figure out your financial. Your business can succeed. And finally, it got to the point where I needed my time more than my company they couldn't afford me. That was basically how it went. I couldn't say no to the opportunities in front of me. So I had to quit. I didn't even have a choice. So I've been sharing this journey online because people were saying, how are you doing this? How are you preparing? Yeah. I was sharing it online. And then finally the quit day came and I said, guys, so I'm going to go quit. I'll be right back. And my whole audience held me to the table. You know what happened, Kevin. Everyone was like, no. You will do this live. Oh, wow. So I hopped on the phone. I called my boss and I said, you know what? I know that my provision resides in my purpose. That's where I've got to go. And I am out of here. And my boss said, you know what? If you love it and it pays you, you shouldn't be here. And when I heard that from somebody who'd been working in this role for 30 years, the person that I thought was goals, I was like, could I get any more confirmation? Talk about everything aligning. Yeah. I'm out. So I left and I never looked back.
That was it. And I love, so nights and weekends, I always say that too. Guys, you got to surrender your nights and weekends. Do your job during the day, right? Yeah. But then nights and weekends have got to go for the exit, to the exit strategy, or the escape tunnel, as I used to call it.
Yes, escape tunnel, yes.
Wow. Yeah. So, okay. So now, then I'm also fascinated with your business, which helps people, and I have a funny feeling it's women that mainly come to you, which I love, because I do, again, my mom was a very strong, independent woman, and my wife is, but I see that all the, we joke, I'm the corporate wife. So I've had to see what my poor husband has had to deal with at work and all the limitations. And I get, because I still, in my heart of hearts, am every bit a man. I just want to hit someone. Yeah. I want to hit someone or something. Right. Because I get frustrated. So I really do root for women because, God, they're such a important part of the work community, and they contribute so much. And we are better together. Like the offices of diversity have been the most profitable and successful, always.
Absolutely. So yes, I work with women, and it's great to empower them, because a lot of women that work with me are women who are either already in corporate and just trying to build that strategy, but they lack the tools, or they're women who are stay-at-home moms that are saying, look, I'm meant for something more. Yeah. And the gap that I get to stand in is just so fun for me, because I believe everyone has an area of excellence. We have a place where we really thrive, right? But by the way, zone of genius.
Yes, but Nicole, sometimes it could be parenthood, right?
Totally. Absolutely. But if that is your zone of genius, that's great, but it doesn't mean it can't be profitable. If you are excellent at getting your kids out the door and with their lunches and to school on time, there's a mom out there that will pay you for those same strategies. And I help monetize that, package that, make it accessible, so that way that mom also doesn't have to compromise her values and her family first. Right. So it's just that sweet spot.
You know what I always say too? It's like, I have in coaching people in Hollywood, for instance, I'll have someone who's like, I'll say, what do you just love to do? Well, I don't want to say, no, come on, tell me. I love to play video games. All right. How many hours you play? Honestly, I don't want to say, come on. Let's just say, I don't know, it's 50 hours a week. I'll say, okay. Then I'll say, can you play 60 or 65? And they're like, what? I'm like, let's put 15 hours a week into monetizing.
That's right.
Right. So whatever it is around that, because now it's already something you love. When I was younger, I would say, let's just say drag racing became the new thing and everyone in the Hollywood wanted drag racing. I would just say to a host, all right, you're going to get into drag racing.
That's right.
But as I've gotten older, that works for the Nicoles and Marias who are just all the F in on everything.
Just driven.
Right. And you're like, I'm in. Like, because look
I'll
at
do
you.
It. Whatever.
You're just as excited about Hershey Park, us going to Hershey Park, as you are this interview, as you are to So like this, Maria's the same way. Dancing with the Stars, wrestling, whatever.
That's right. I'm going to win no matter what.
Or it's going to be so much effing fun.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's be part of this, like, right. But and I think a lot of that's an immigrant spirit too. It's that like we're going to go to a new land and
that's right.
And we're not afraid to leave home. But I've learned with other people that they're not like that. So then it's like you find what they love and go, okay, so you wait, why are we throwing out the baby out with the bathwater? No pun intended, with your being an amazing father or mother. Yes. You're amazing at that. I honor that. That's incredible. And you know what? You have figured it out. And there's a value in that. And then how do we now, if 80 or 90 or 100 hours a week are going into the motherhood, getting activities and this and that and volunteering and all that stuff. Okay, how do we put in more time to that and make it profitable? So I love it. It's genius.
You nailed it. And Kevin, I mean, I think as someone who's been, building and independent for so long, you know that there are the moments where you have the highs and the lows. Yeah. And if you are in one of those valleys in your business, your entrepreneurship, your Hollywood chase, your parenting, you name it, if you're not doing something you love, how the heck are you going to get out of it? How are you going to get out of it with your health and with your mind intact and to show up in all the places we have to show up, like parenting in our marriages? So it really is why, strangely enough, same question I start with, what makes your heart sing? What is it that you want to do? Because if I can figure that out, if we can nail that, all we have to do is apply formulas to get you paid for it. But if you don't love it, well, then I can't get you out of the valley, when it gets hard. And I can guarantee that it will get hard. So let's make sure that when it's hard, you still are able to hold your why and that vision in front of you. Yeah.
Let's go over the why again. Because, it's interesting interviewing people on this show. Everyone says things in a different way, but they're all saying the same thing, which I think is cool. What makes your heart sing? I love that, asking yourself to begin with. And then, but let's get into the why. I've heard it explained many other times, but it seems like such a cool formula in discovering your career path or your life path. So explain the why to me. Yeah.
So the why for me at my core is my family. And the way that we show up in the world. So our family value is do what you say you will do. It's about integrity. It's about showing up completely. And it's about honoring, not just our word, but our relationship with our neighbors. That's how we are. So everything we do, if we say, hey, I'll take care of the dishes, it's because I want to be a person who does what they say they will do. Hey, I will pay that bill. It's because I said I would, so that value system is a huge.
So that's your why. So it is the why I wake up in the morning. What is the why?
I'm a person of faith, right? So as a Christian, as a God girl, right? Which I think a lot of people, especially if you're in entrepreneurship or Hollywood, you find yourself saying, look, I need to align with something or else I'll spiral out of control pretty quickly. And for me, that's part of the why is I feel like I've been placed here with a specific purpose. And there's actually a Bible verse about it where it's like all of our gifts that we have were given to us, not just for us to use for ourselves, but specifically to use in service of others.
Yeah. And again, we keep hearing that too, about service to others and how valuable it is.
That's right. So that means that if I were to take my gift and just keep it to myself, well, that means that I was delivered from a level of suffering that someone else is still in, and I'm not using my story to help save them. How dare I? You know what I mean? How selfish of me.
You just gave me a big breakthrough too. Yeah, Nicole, you just gave me a breakthrough because I always said I have this OCD thing about wasted talent. And I never knew why.
You, right? It eats you up.
Even famous athletes that I don't even know, I've reached out and said, no, it's not over for you. What are you doing? Your mind is and so I've always had this thing, and now I realize it's because they're not, thanks to you, they're not sharing their gifts.
They're not sharing their gifts. And there's someone else out there who's still in that moment, that mindset, that thing that you've been delivered from. And yet here you are sitting there with the answers and not sharing them. You can't take them with you. I'm more scared of leaving this earth with my answers than I am of possibly failing and trying to deliver them to someone else. So that's why I show up every day.
And I love your generation for that, because I can tell you how many old timers I know that held on to the information.
Kevin, we're from the same generation.
Yeah,
Stop
are
that.
we? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, we are.
No, I'm an elderly gentleman. But I've known so many people. I'm waiting until I write my book. One day I'll write a book. One day, or they just kept the information to themselves. I'm like, why? You're retired. You already the game's over for you. You got you won. Share it.
Well, and people don't understand, like people like me, and it's funny, I love this conversation because it's so real and I never get to have these, but people like me, we truly, like the child of an immigrant, my parents don't understand the work I'm doing. If you ask my mom, she's like, oh, my daughter, she's Oprah. That's what she does every day. She's Oprah. Mom, I'm not Oprah. I'm not. That's not what I do.
Yeah, but I love that.
They don't get it, but I don't have that mentor. When I go to my parents and I say, hey, I'm looking to invest, the extra $1 million we made this year. My parents are like, and, when I go and say I want to buy a house in this neighborhood, they don't know how to do that stuff. And so if it wasn't for the people who went before me and made those decisions and planned those things out and branched into things and took risk, I would not be here. People like me are only great because of the people who've gone before us and shared their answers.
Right.
So it's like, you have to. You just have to.
So Nicole, beyond schooling, did you read biographies? Did you go on YouTube? Like what tell me what some of your hacks were.
This. So even though I've been well educated, I'm not a big proponent for the classic education. I kind of think of it as it's important, right? It teaches you how to be on time, have deadlines, turn in things, sure. But at the end of the day, do you really want a doctor who only did 4 years of medical school, or do you want one that's practiced for 25 years? So I'm always chasing behind people who have done it. So if I have a plumber come to my house, I'm staring over his shoulder and I'm asking him questions. And that's the way that I've learned. So even now in talking to you, I'm a glutton for the knowledge. I'm taking everything that you're saying in, and I'm saying, hey, how are you going to apply this later? How are you going to use this to fire yourself up? And how are you going to share this? Because maybe that tidbit's not for you, Nicole. Maybe it's for someone that you're working with to help inspire their life. And you were just blessed to be positioned to gather that info for them. So that's how I learn. I just take every moment, whether it's at my dry cleaner, who's been in business for 25 years, or at my, my Whole Foods, walking through the aisles and seeing, hey, how are they stacking the merchandise? What are they doing with their clearance items to get them off the shelf in order to make sure I can apply it and grow?
Yes. And so there's that awareness. I'll always say to people in business, guys, listen, I know this is going to really oversimplify, but I always say, just take Coke and make Pepsi.
Yes.
Take Cadillac and make Lexus. You don't have to invent the wheel. So look at another brand that's close to yours or whatever it is you want to do. Study that brand and say, okay, now how do I do it better and how do I do it my way? But I think stores like McDonald's, Target, that are always changing colors, growing. I'm always looking at why are they using this color? Yeah, always evolving, but with many, many, many millions of dollars worth of research and data and marketing that regular people like us don't have, but they have access to. But we can watch, and I love that you're watching the clearance items and what's selling. Like I'm fascinated by that stuff. But I think if you want to be in business and sell services to other people, then I always say to people, like I'll say to my host at AfterBuzz, I'll say, think like a consumer. You all act like one. We all buy. We buy this and we buy. But so it's easy to think like one. What would you buy, and what would other people buy?
Kevin, you nailed it. I mean, what's interesting is we say the same thing in a different language. So I always tell my students and my clients, look, you admire Steve Jobs because you're thinking he's this great innovator. He didn't invent the phone. All he did was take buttons off of it. Okay. That's what he did. So you're out here chasing the next great idea. But in reality, odds are there's something you're already doing, whether it's meal planning or a certain fitness routine or, the way that you organize your kids or whatever. You're already doing something, but tweaked it to work for your life. And if you can just find 1,000 people out there who love that who have that same problem and need your solution, and each of those 1,000 people pays you $100 one time, the math on that is $100,000.
I'm good.
You don't need everybody.
No.
You don't need everyone.
No
you
overhead.
You can make $100,000 from finding your 1,000 true fans. It's not that hard.
I say all the time, people, a small, loyal audience can be far more profitable than a giant one. I can tell you, Nicole, about celebrities who have many, many millions of followers.
Mm-hmm. And make no money. They're my clients.
That's right. Yeah, no, and they'll turn around, listen, and they'll say, I don't want to name names because I don't want to embarrass anybody, but I will tell you one person who would say, oh, buy this, can you donate to my charity or buy my book or whatever? And millions, and when I say like probably 30 or 40 million followers, they might get about $50,000.
That's right.
Then I have other friends who have 1 million followers who will say, hey guys, I haven't made a movie in a while. I want to direct my own film and the budget's $1 million. And in 2 weeks, they have 2.5 million and they had to shut down the account. So I always say like a small loyal audience can be more valuable in many times, you know.
In all the ways. Absolutely.
I love hearing all the ways. Yeah.
All the ways. And then you also have to remember that you have to give people something to buy, right? You know, that's a huge part of the business is that I think that a lot of us get caught up. And I mean, you're not like this, Kevin, you're about sharing your answers, you know, but we get so caught up in the fame and just the attention of it, the vanity metrics, the numbers that give us validations, the follows, the likes, the comments, that we lose sight of, again, our purpose. So what are you giving back to these people for these likes, these follows? It's a circular relationship. So if I'm here giving answers all the day, I have no problem with them committing to our relationship financially for me to continue giving those answers and expanding on them. Yeah. So, I mean, it's an honor for me to step on a stage and then continue that relationship with people externally by giving them products and opportunities and things through my company. So, I mean, it's interesting because I work with a lot of celebrities and I work with a lot of reality stars who say, I've got 5 million followers and I can't make 6 figures a year consistently, you know, and it's because of exactly what you said right now, where they like the likes, you know, they like the comments,
what
but
did
they
you
aren't
just say?
Thinking about the greater
I want you to
purpose.
trademark that. What did you say? Vanity metrics?
Vanity metrics.
I love that. So people get wrapped up in vanity metrics, like, oh, look at all the likes I got or all the comments I received, but not looking at the fiscal end of it.
The real numbers that matter. That's right.
The real numbers that matter is how we feed ourselves, how we take, you know, and all that stuff is fleeting.
That's right. And Kevin, you know, I mean, ultimately we're talking about money and stuff here, but it's not because the money is all that matters. It's because money's a tool.
It's a tool.
And so for me, you know, having grown up without it, you know, growing up in intense poverty, I've seen what money's allowed me to do. Yeah. Money's allowed me to take my 3 daughters off of the street. We met them, you know, on the side of a Baltimore street panhandling, you know. And
oh my God. Wait, what? Okay. Put a pin in that. We're going to stay on business. Then we have to move over to that. Right. I didn't know, but listen, but that money saved the middle daughter. Listen, right. I have a mother-in-law right now who's my mom. Yes. And had a few months to live. We're in year 5. And I have to always remind my wife, because of your fame, all the work we've done, the money as a tool. Yes. That's the tool that's kept her here.
That's right. Yeah, I was able to pay my daughter's bills in full. And it was something like $250,000 for her care. And I think about the decisions I made in fear. I mean, I did them while I was scared. It's not like the fear went away. I was launching things and building things and serving people and taking meetings that I didn't feel like I was ready for. But I didn't know that I was actually getting ready for the big fight, which was this cancer battle. She had stage 4 lymphoma and she was 17 years old. And she did her chemo in half the time and is fully recovered and in survivorship now with a next to 0 chance of recurrence again.
Of course she is. Of course she is. So, oh my God, I was about to go down that rabbit hole of toxic positivity. Someone had mentioned this on the show, and I just was like, wait, anyway, sorry. All right, the ADD moment. All right, so I want to go back. I'm going to go back to the children in that journey. Let's, staying on this business, on the business end of things, what are some of the things that hurt the entrepreneurs who reach out to you? What's some of the things that are crippling them or, you know, preventing them from reaching success?
I would say the biggest thing is fear, but it's not just fear of starting or fear of success. It's actually the fear that keeps them from moving when they're already in the opportunity. I can't tell you how many people are literally sitting in their transformative moment and they don't want to move. So they'll sit there and they'll say, I just got a great job offer. I'm too afraid to take it. I just got a great interview. I'm not sure if I can do it. I just got, and it's like, it's already arrived. It's already shown up. Walk through the door.
See, there's that awareness. The universe is speaking to you, but so many people don't listen.
It's rising to meet you because you're showing up. And unfortunately, that's really where I find that, the cream rises to the top. The 1% of people who are willing to walk through that door and accept whatever's on the other side are the people who keep winning. It's the people who say to themselves, I did all this work to arrive here, and now I'm too afraid to accept the thing that I've earned. They're the ones that, unfortunately, you just don't see hit the other side.
What do you do with them, though? Is there any way to break through to them, Nicole?
So the hardest part is not holding, what they're going through as my own, right? Because I have to remember that they do need to walk through that door by themselves. I want to empower them because it's that first step that gets them through all the other doors behind them, because it doesn't stop, right? But, it's really letting them know, hey, let's paint a vision. What's on the other side? You are prepared. I call it holding up a mirror so I can remind them who they are. So they're sitting there with visions of what they think they can do. And instead, my job is just to say, no, this is who you are. Look right here. You have accomplished this. You have earned this. You did the work. Everything on the other side you deserve. So step through and collect it.
Is there any therapies or things like that you recommend in terms of helping them break through or maintaining?
100%. So I go to therapy. I think that's one of the things that is often, especially as like I said, a faith-based person, I think of a therapist as it's a doctor for my brain, right? I wouldn't go see my pastor if my foot hurt. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things where I'm big in therapy, and I actually do EMDR, which is a specific type of therapy for people who've gone through things like PTSD, but it works excellently for high performers, where you're basically reprogramming any preconstructed beliefs that were imprinted on you, so that way you learn you don't have to receive messaging that was put on you at a young age, and apply that to your future. Stay present, know your worth, know who you are, and show up completely.
EMDR.
It's amazing.
Yes,
it's transformative.
It is transformative. And I think you just said something too about the messaging you heard.
That's right.
Right. And I think that is another thing we're discovering is these messages we heard as children. And, we on the show suffer individually here from those things. And I know they have manifest themselves in physical health, but then also in other areas of success. So what were some of the things, do you mind revealing when you...
Oh, of course, yeah, sure.
Childhood
I mean, we're having there's no one else here. It's just me and you right now.
That's true. That's right. That's right.
Just us hanging out. I was like, who else is here right now?
Well, it just helps. It helps. You know this too, Nicole. It just helps other people hear. Like, look, I'll take it to my wife, Maria. Beautiful girl. Bright light, just like you, just beautiful, the giant smile like you, and but what I'm always trying to relay to people is the relatability of Maria is that she was also the child immigrants. They didn't have food, and she bleeds, she cries, she hurts, and I think it's important for people to know that it's not easy. It was never easy. And she has her blind spots too.
Yes.
And is currently, the reason she's not doing the show right now is because she's working on those.
That's right.
So that's why I love to hear, because I think it's aspirational for other people to hear this and go, wait, okay, I'm not crazy. It's
absolutely. Well, and the humanity of it, knowing that we're moving forward as imperfect people doing our best. So the biggest trauma that I've worked through and that has been really powerful for me is learning that a lot of the negative beliefs that we tell ourselves, we're hearing them in our own voice because that's how we hear our thoughts, right? It's us repeating back to ourselves. However, there's no thought in your brain that is original to you. When you're born, there's nothing at all that's imprinted on you. So it's why when you meet a 6-year-old and a 6-year-old says, I'm Superman, and they insist on being called Superman because that's their new name, you can't program them otherwise because they've decided. And we still possess that same power. So when I was younger, one of the things that was imprinted on me was that my dad had a big fear of going into certain spaces. Like, these spaces are only for the wealthy, or these opportunities are only for people who look a certain way or have a aspired to a certain thing. And that fear started showing up for me after I quit my job, and I started being invited into spaces that were extremely unfamiliar, not just for me, but for my historical bloodline. You know, my family, they're African immigrants. We typically don't go to the White House. You know what I mean? We typically, you know, didn't have meetings at boardrooms with senior executives of top channels, you know? So these sorts of places that were unfamiliar to me with no guide, you know, I was terrified. You know, I just wasn't sure if I knew how to be there or if I belonged. There weren't people there who looked like me. I was looking for the Black women, you know, in the room, and they just weren't there. Things are changing now, thankfully, but it's the truth of it. And so therapy actually helped me work through that, because what I realized was I was hearing words that were originally in my father's voice saying, we're not supposed to go there, you know, stay in your own place, like do the work that's expected of you, you know, play coy, play submissive, play quiet, you know, and I had to replace that saying, look, the same way those were given to me, I choose not to receive them. And I'm going to replace it with my truth, which is I belong there. I'm invited because I earned it. And more than anything, I'm going to go in there first. I'm going to hold open the door for the women behind me so that way, when they arrive, they're able to say, I belong here too. So, you know, when I think of like, an Oprah Winfrey, before there was anyone called Oprah, you know, she was the first. I can only imagine what it was like introducing herself to a room full of men, you know, saying, I'm Oprah, you know. And she's made it easier for me, and I'm going to make it easier for the people behind me.
I love it. And that's what I love about your generation too. It's amazing because I get why the older generation that were the pioneers didn't necessarily want to share. They pretended they did, but they didn't because they were so scared because there was only so many slots. And I understand that.
Of course. And it's like, I get it. It's just that what's great is there's sort of a democratizing of the world of media and entertainment and messaging with social media. You know, we don't need permission, red tape, bureaucracy, and paperwork in order to be great and put our message in the world. Now, that means one, there's some social responsibility, right? To those who are given much is expected. So I'm very careful about the use of my platform because I do care about what I put out into the world because that's my legacy. However, I'm also grateful that I have a platform and I didn't have to wait until someone decided I was worthy enough to have one. I started doing the work and it became very quickly that people wanted to elevate that because the work I was doing was worthy.
I mean, trust me, you didn't want to be at the mercy of, listen, there's brilliant people in Hollywood. We see some great works come out, but for every brilliant one, I would say half is probably being generous. I would say more than half are idiots. They don't know any better than we do. And they've been guarding the gates. Yes. And I love with TikTok and all these other things is now it's like, nope, I'll just put my stuff out there and let the people decide. And it's nice that a lot of these people who have clogged the pipes for so long and made tons of money clogging the pipes.
Yes.
Don't get me started. Yes. Are now, you know, they're going to find out it's going to be a lot harder on them. And I think this is amazing.
What's cool about that is that we are also in a position where, and I think we both are, you keep saying my generation, but I think we're cut from the same cloth in a lot of ways. We also recognize, and I teach a lot of the TikTokers and the wannabe YouTubers and the Gen Zers, you can't skip the work either though. Do you know what I mean? So even though things are democratized.
I'm glad you said it, not me. I'm the bad guy for saying it because I say, like, guys, the one thing I can give you the tips, the tricks, the hacks, and I'll give them to you for free.
You got to show up.
You got to do the work. I don't know an easy. I say, Nicole, I don't know an easy way. And if you do know the easy way, tell me so I can help other people. But I still think it's one of the hardest things to achieve, and you have to put in the work.
Yeah, you got to be consistent. You got to keep showing up. When I tell people that I've written over 500 blog posts, that I haven't gone 12 years without posting some piece of content on social media consistently, they're like, oh, that seems like a lot. Yeah, that's why I have a debt-free multi-million-dollar business, because I do a lot of work.
Wow, you were still a mom? Like that was, and by the way, that wasn't it. Blog a day, piece of cake? No,
it's not. It's writing. It's writing a news article every day. Single day.
And creating something. But then on top of it, Nicole, you're forgetting all the other work you do on top of that. If that were
exfoliate, I wear Spanx. I moisturize my hair. I get my eyebrows done. I'm a very busy person, Kevin.
3 kids you take off the street. building a business, working in corporate, starring on a reality show. Like I'm saying, like you're doing even way more than that. And I will tell you, when people envy the Instagram or the TikToker or the YouTube star, I have to always step in. We have people I work with go, oh yeah, it must be nice that that's what makes all these millions.
Right.
If you knew the amount of work, it's exhausting. And I love my work and I work around the clock. But if you told me I had to spend 12 to 14-hour days making YouTube videos of myself, I would hang myself.
I couldn't do it. People say Kim Kardashian gets $200,000 for an Instagram post. Oh my gosh, that's so unfair. I'm like, do you know that she has to get a full team to do her hair and makeup? Everything. They have to set up it just so that it looks natural. There's someone who comes in and sets it up, make sure that she isn't in violation of contracts by showing the wrong labels and brands. It's a thing.
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting
and good for them because that's what they want. They're wired that way. But if that's what you want, you have to be willing to put that work in. And then if you're not willing to do that, be honest. So then you're not bitter and jealous and negative. Like you just say, that's not for me.
Absolutely. I hear you.
Yeah, I rather just God. Like I think there's so much more we can talk about in business, and hopefully you'll come back so we can.
Anytime.
All right, Nicole. This conversation will continue. Thank you so much. And God bless.
Well, you two are besties.
Yeah, I love her. You guys, that's going to conclude part 1 of our interview with Nicole Walters. But please stick around for part 2, where we're going to go into marriage and motherhood while being a successful entrepreneur. So stay tuned.